it out one of these days.
Well, let's take a look at this one. It's no problem. That's why we're here.
I really don't want to stop it. The people who are going faster, and
well, that's why we took the vote, right? So I'm gonna upload the whole thing so that people don't have to wait, but then we still want to go over it to make sure everybody understands. So yesterday we said something like this. So I still got to get my pen, but let me still try to draw with this mouse. I keep forgetting I need to get a battery for my pen. All right, so let's pretend that's a parallelogram. Right, so the dashed line, let me do that one again. That's not a good parallelogram. So that's a little better. The dashed line is making a right triangle. So what you have to say to yourself is, you don't know the height, right? But that dash is cutting the parallelogram into two triangles. So if you really think that you don't know this height, this right here is going to end up being a right triangle. So is that making sense, Zoila?
Mm-hmm.
So the dashed line, you're basically going to create the two right triangles. In order to figure out the height, if this side length is 25 and the base is 7, you're going to, we said yesterday you could say height to the second power plus 7 to the second power equals 25 to the second power. But this is the Pythagorean theorem. So the only reason why we put H instead of A or B is because we're really trying to find the area. So does that make sense so far? So in order to answer the question.
Keep going, I just have to check where was my mistake.
Okay, so this is the one that we're going to end up doing. Area equals base times the height, but we just don't know the height. So we know area equals 7 times something, and that's what we have to figure out. So when we do the 7 times 7,
49.
And then 25 times 25.
Oops, 625.
You're going to subtract 49 from both sides.
576.
So what you're saying, why can't I write the number 6? So what you're saying is you want to find out what H is by itself. So you're back to doing the square root of 576. When you do the 576, that's where you get that H is 24. So now you can fill it in the area formula and say 7 times 24 is the 168. So which part do you think you didn't do?
That last part, the 7 times 24.
But you did get the number 24?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then you're more than halfway there.
Yes.
As long as you did get the number 24 for the height, what you have to do now is make sure that you go back to the question, where the question is saying, what is the area? And then you're focused on, I should be doing this area equals base times the height for my final answer. So you have to understand that the 24 is the height that you need to do the area.
Because what I did was add that.
So what I think you should do is when you are doing the problem, especially a lot of these that say consider the parallelogram, and then it has the question, I think just like I did on that white sheet, I wrote down both formulas right away because based on the question, I know I just have to say A equals base times the height. So before I even really get started working on the problem, and I didn't even know the number 24 yet, I know it's going to be 7 times whatever I get from the Pythagorean theorem.
Okay.
So that way you already know what operation to do is based on the question. So even when you pull out all the numbers, you still have to ask yourself, what is the question asking me? If it was perimeter, it would be adding it up. Because it's area, the question is really about multiplication. So now let's take a look at number 19. What did you pick out for number 19? So let's read the question. A flower bed is to be laid out in the shape of a trapezoid. One base will be 3 meters and the height will be 5 meters. What will the length in meters of the other base be so that the flower bed will have an area of 35 square meters?
D.
D is correct.
B.
So 11, great job. So this time you're leaving whatever letter you have for the base. So it's either the A and B, or if you wanted to do base 1 times base 2. So does anybody have any questions about number 19?
No.
All right then. Wait a second. Does this not have number 20 and 21 and 22?
Nope.
It's missing a page, but I thought it was.
I thought
It
you
is
said.
a page. So let's see.
Give us a break.
Yeah.
So 20, 21, and 22 will just be homework then. So we'll just skip to 23 and I will
I
rescan
got
it.
21.
Oh, you do?
No,
I don't
you
know.
got
Okay.
21.
I think that I only scanned it once, so I must have.
I got 22, miss.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So
Really?
Damn it twice.
we're gonna skip over to 23. And then tomorrow we'll do the last 3 and circle.
All right.
So this
Yeah,
was
I have
another.
23.
Yeah, I think I must have just skipped a page when I was scanning or uploading, one or the other. So skip to 23. This is another one to consider. It says, so now you're considering the trapezoid. You see everything is labeled. It says if the area is 104 square centimeters, what is the height?
So here.
So now you know the area, but you're leaving the h in the formula and just doing regular algebra.
8.
8, yes. So let me show you this other formula.
14 times 9.
So the other formula that is,
Yeah. 8.
the 1/2, the height, oops. So it just depends on how it looks. If it is on your formula sheet, it could be like the one that's on Math is Fun, or it could be like this one where they're just saying base, but they're labeling the 2 different bases as base 1 and base 2. Either way, you're going to end up adding them up. So
7 and 19. 27. 26.
So in something like this, you could just take half of the 26 to make it easy. So you have the height, and then you're gonna have 13. So they're telling you that the area, so let me draw this line right here, is 104. So all you're really doing is dividing by 13. So what you're putting in the grid is the number 8.
Yeah.
And now for 24 and 25, you're going to use the same parallelogram to answer both questions. So you're looking at this one. The segment of length X is parallel to the dotted segment. So now why might they be telling you that? Because the other measurement, you're trying to figure out, the parallelogram is basically inside of the trapezoid. So they're telling you that X and the dotted segment are the same. So if you looked at X and the dotted segment, you'd be looking at the parallelogram. If you look all the way out to 8, then you're kind of looking at the trapezoid. So number 24 says, what is the length in inches of side X? So what can you use to figure out what X is?
Area plus. It's 8.
Do we have to use the Pythagorean theorem again?
Yes, so that's why they set up the dotted side so that you can see the two right angles are where the number 8 is. So
27.
One second. Hold on.
So what they're saying is this side at the bottom is 18. The part at the top is 12, and off to the side is 8. So what you're looking at is if you wanted to figure out what X is, you could figure out what the dotted line is. Is that making sense to everybody?
No.
So now the only reason that you know this is from reading the directions. So it says the segment of length X is parallel to the dotted segment. If you were just trying to understand the dotted segment, you'd be looking like at this triangle. So that's why you can say, if I know this dotted line that's right here, I would also know X because they're the same, they're parallel. So I don't have to focus on the X really, I can focus on the right triangle where the dotted line is. So now you have to pick out the measurements for that right triangle. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm just gonna look at this pink triangle, which one is C? What line is C?
Isn't it, oh, B? Oh. B2?
So we're gonna do the Pythagorean theorem.
Left.
The one that we are trying to look for, to find.
Right, the dashed one, right, is C.
Yes.
So now which one, we can say 8 is labeled, and 8 would probably be B, the way that we normally look at it. the base of the triangle if we were like to rotate the triangle. But it doesn't matter, right? You're definitely putting the 8 somewhere. So I'm going to put the 8 for B.
Oh,
So now how do you figure out what A is?
Come on, sit down.
yeah, and then
8 times 8.
yeah.
So what part is A? Is this part right here.
It's
Has to be the base.
So how much is just this green line?
Mm,
8.
That is the secret to figuring out the problem.
You have to be.
Not-
You have to reduce the whole. Because it's 18, the whole thing.
so 9.
Yes.
So
You
it
have
has
to-
be 6
Perfect, Zoila.
because you just from 18 you minus 12. That's how you do it.
Exactly. So this is where the number that you need is not in the problem again, right? So the whole line across the bottom is 18, but you don't need that. You just need the part that's matching up with the right triangle. So what you have to do is say 18 minus 12. And then that's what you're going to use in the Pythagorean theorem. So now that you know these are in the multiplication table. So you should know 6 times 6 is 36. 8 times 8,
64.
and that equals C squared. So now you know that the length of X is going to be the part that was the hypotenuse, right? So that is 10.
No, this is what we're doing. That's 1. I mean, this is what we're doing.
So any questions about this one?
I probably got it.
So this one is extra because then, like we said, the number 6 is not there. You also have to understand from the word problem that you're looking for X by solving the triangle that's parallel to X. So you're not really focused on X. You also are just using the numbers 18 and 12 to figure out the right triangle. So you're not really going to be using those numbers. So you have to be able to, like they said, consider, and then you have to be able to eliminate the things that you don't need. So for number 24, the answer is H. So now you have this same trapezoid. So now you need to know the area.
No, watch out. I got B.
That's correct. So for this one, you're just doing the base, adding up the two bases. So you're saying 18 plus 12 times the height, which is 8. And then you're taking half of that. So you can either put the half on the outside or you can do just divided by 2, like was on Math is Fun. So when you have 18 and 12, you might already just have that in your head as 30. So 1/2 of 30 times 8. And like we said, if you're doing it in your mental math, a number like 30 is easy to just say half of that is 15. So you can either multiply 30 times 8 and then take half, or you can take half of 30. So when you say 15 times 8, you get 120.
Which is cool. We're gonna be covered. I'm almost done.
Oh, we don't have the other 3 questions.
That is number 24?
That was number 25. So B.
Yeah, 25. Yeah.
That is the trapezoid area. So I'm going to scan the page before this one, page 147, and put that up right now. That will be what we'll do first. But then I'm just also going to scan the whole document this time of the circle. And then that will be what we're going to start tomorrow and finish on Monday. If we need to, we'll do it on Tuesday also. So now this is not the chapter quiz. This is the task exercise book that we were kind of using as a quiz in class. What we're going to do after we're done with Circle, so next week, we're going to take a look at the textbook and do the end of the chapter quiz. So if you remember the end of the chapter quiz, it has like sections where we normally were taking a survey. If you got 2 wrong, 3 wrong, 4 wrong, you should reread that section. So that's what we're going to do when we move on to the next one, is match up the Khan Academy lessons, the Aztec lessons, the Math is Fun lessons, but we'll also have the textbook for people who like that style. You can still do the same thing, read it as a document or print it off if you can, and go over the part that you're not getting them right in. So I think so far everybody's doing really well considering, right? We just jumped right to this kind of like the test. So we technically have about 2 to 3 sections because we have 7.3 and 7.4, which we haven't done yet on Aztec or Khan Academy or Math is Fun. That's moving towards the combination shapes and the 3-dimensional shapes. Then after that is where you're going to see the whole chapter 7 review, which we're using kind of like a summary quiz. And then if we make it through that, in the next like week to week and a half, we're going to move on to graphing or another subject, right? So that means this class, you would have done algebra while we were at Mercer, geometry from home, graphing from home, but then you should be able to go take the test. So soon the testing centers will start to reopen, hopefully Mercer first. But as you know, some people have different tests to complete. So there are some people who are just waiting for any testing center to open because they have 1 test or 2 tests, right? So I want you to be able to, we've hit a lot of things in this class that you should be able to pass the test, really, because it seems like a lot, and I'm not even gonna lie, it is a lot, but you only have, you're doing a certain percentage of the basic math that we did, a certain percentage of the algebra. We also did statistics. So all of the things that you have in your binder already, you can review that as well. So I'm putting the time tracker back up. I don't know what the issue is with this time tracker. Some people have no problems, and then other people, I don't know if there's like a limit on how many times you can edit it. I don't understand what the issue is. It's supposed to be open for you to edit. But if you are even, especially as we come to May, if you're reviewing for 20 minutes, your binder that was in statistics or in algebra or redoing any of those things, you can send me the quizzes for that as well. So like yesterday, what did we look at? We did something that was a little bit of a review. I can't quite remember what it was. I should have mentioned it right then. But
You mean the chapter before on the
I feel like, oh, I know what it was. It was factoring. That time that we were factoring out 24 in order to figure out the perimeter. So when it was saying that, let me see if I can find that. It was number 8. So when we were saying what could the greatest perimeter be, it was because we had to say 1 times 24, 2 times 12, right? We were trying to think of all the ways to factor 24. that might have been something that you could say, hey, you know what, I did remember that, but let me go back and do the Math is Fun factoring. So what I'll do is I'll just throw that up in Google today if you want to do that one. But anything like that is why you're also just tracking your time. So officially, we are going to start doing lesson plans for next week because we're going to be out longer. So the college is saying that we're going to submit full regular lesson plans like we were doing before. And this class is a little bit abbreviated